You already know the truth. You're capable of more than the life you're currently living. Deep down, you feel it, that quiet frustration, that pressure in your chest, that uncomfortable awareness that you're not doing enough. You know you're wasting your time, your potential, your opportunities. And if you keep going like this, you also know exactly how the story ends. Regret, resentment, and excuses that won't matter when the clock runs out. This is your wake-up call. Not the gentle kind, the kind that slaps you across the face, grabs your shirt and pulls you out of your own excuses, because the world doesn't care about your intentions, only your actions. You don't get rewarded for thinking about changing. You don't get credit for wanting a better life. You get results only when you get up and move. From this moment on, every word you hear will confront your laziness, expose your comfort addiction, and force you to look directly at the version of yourself you're avoiding. This audiobook isn't here to soothe you, it's here to rebuild you, and rebuilding hurts. But so does staying the same. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Lie of the Sills Start Tomorrow. Tomorrow is the soft pillow you keep falling asleep on. It's the word you use when you want to feel innocent about wasting your time. You tell yourself you're not avoiding your goals, you're just postponing them. You're not quitting, you're waiting for the right moment. But let's be brutally honest, you're not waiting, you're hiding. I'll start tomorrow is the lie that keeps you chained to the weakest version of yourself. Think about how many times you've said it. How many times you've promised yourself you would wake up earlier, fix your habits, start that passion project, get in shape, study, work harder, improve your life, only to end the day exactly the same. You've rehearsed this lie so many times that it sounds reasonable now, and that's the problem. The lie became a habit. The habit became your identity. Now you're a person who delays by default, not because you can't act, but because you refuse to. Tomorrow feels safe because it feels far enough away for you not to panic, but close enough for you to feel responsible. It gives you a false sense of moral credit. I'll start tomorrow. Tricks your mind into believing you've already made progress simply by intending to do something. Your brain rewards you with a tiny sense of relief, the illusion of commitment, without you doing anything at all. You feel productive while doing absolutely nothing. It's a psychological scam you keep falling for. The real reason you cling to tomorrow is simple. Starting today forces you to face your fears. You're scared of failing, scared of discomfort, scared of disappointment, scared of discovering that you're not as disciplined as you pretend to be. Tomorrow lets you avoid all of that. It shields you from reality. It gives you an escape from the painful truth. You don't want to change as badly as you say you do. But here's the reality check you've avoided for years. Tomorrow has never once changed your life. Not even a single time. Every meaningful change you've ever made happened the moment you made a decision in the present. Every time you delayed, nothing happened. Tomorrow is a graveyard of abandoned hopes. It's where dreams go to die quietly. The world is full of people who plan to get serious tomorrow for 10, 20, 30 years until they ran out of tomorrows. You have to face the uncomfortable truth. You are running out of tomorrows too. Time is not your friend. It doesn't slow down to let you catch up. It doesn't pause because you're tired. Every day you lose is gone forever. And the brutal part? Time doesn't care about your excuses, your intentions, or your feelings. Time moves forward with or without you. Every time you delay, you're not just pushing away a task, you're throwing away a fragment of your potential. You're teaching your brain that it's okay to choose comfort over commitment. You're training yourself to be weaker, not stronger. You're building a life where anything difficult becomes negotiable and anything important becomes optional. And once that mindset sets in, it becomes a permanent cage. I'll start tomorrow is the language of stagnation, And if you're honest with yourself, you can already see the consequences. You're not where you want to be. You're behind on goals you set years ago. You're watching other people move ahead while you stay exactly where you've always been. You're frustrated, not because you lack talent, but because you lack action. Talent without execution is wasted potential, and you've wasted enough of it already. The truth is simple: nothing changes until you do. Not your finances, not your relationships, not your body, not your mindset, not your life. You cannot think your way into the person you want to be. You have to act your way into it, and action only happens now, never tomorrow. The moment you choose to move, everything shifts. When you act today, you break the mental pattern that's been holding you hostage. You prove to yourself that you're capable. You build momentum. You create clarity. You build trust with yourself. And that trust becomes the foundation of discipline. Discipline doesn't start with huge actions. It starts with small ones you do immediately, without negotiation. People who succeed aren't superhuman. They're just people who stopped lying to themselves. They stopped giving their power to tomorrow. They realized that waiting for the right moment is a trap, because the right moment never exists. Life doesn't align perfectly. You don't suddenly wake up motivated, confident and ready. You start messy. You start uncertain. You start uncomfortable. But you start. Comfort will always whisper, relax, there's time. But reality doesn't whisper, it hits you straight in the face. There isn't time. The longer you delay, the harder it becomes to fix your habits, repair your discipline, rebuild your life. Laziness compounds just like effort does. The more you give into it, the stronger it grows. And one day you'll look back and realize laziness wasn't just a habit, it was the architect of your entire life. But there's another truth you need to hear. You're not powerless. You can rewrite the whole story the moment you stop negotiating with yourself. The moment you decide that now is the only acceptable time to act, you reclaim control, you reclaim your focus, you reclaim your future. Your future self is watching you right now, and they're begging you to stop delaying. They're begging you to stop sacrificing long-term success for short-term comfort. They're begging you to choose action over excuses, because they know what your life looks like if you don't. They've lived through the regret you're about to create. You don't need to wait until you're ready. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need motivation. You just need to begin. One action, one decision, one moment of courage. That's it. That's the door out of your old life. And that door is open right now, not tomorrow. So stop lying to yourself. Stop pretending the future will magically fix what you're refusing to fix today. The life you want doesn't start later. It starts now. Get up, move now. Chapter 2. Comfort is the enemy. Comfort looks harmless. It looks soft, warm, familiar. It feels like rest, like safety, like a reward you've somehow earned without doing much. Comfort is the quiet voice that says, relax, you've had a long day, even when you haven't. It's the subtle pull toward the couch, the endless scrolling, the mindless entertainment, the easy path. It doesn't attack you directly, it seduces you. That's why it wins so easily. But here's the truth. Most people avoid because it's uncomfortable. Comfort is the enemy of everything you want. Comfort is the silent killer of ambition, discipline, and growth. Comfort is the reason you stay stuck. Comfort is the villain you've been protecting. Every big promise you've made to yourself, to level up, to get in shape, to build discipline, to change your mindset, to improve your life, has been destroyed by one thing: your addiction to comfort. You keep choosing what feels good now over what feels good later. You keep choosing ease over effort, and you wonder why nothing changes. Comfort is dangerous because it doesn't feel dangerous. Laziness feels bad, failure hurts, regret stings, but comfort feels nice. It makes you believe everything is okay, even when everything is actually falling apart. It tricks you into believing you're fine when you're wasting your potential. Comfort is the slow poison that kills you without pain. Think about it. The moments in your life where you grew the most were never comfortable. They were hard, uncertain, awkward, painful, full of pressure and challenge. Growth never came from the couch. Strength never came from avoiding discomfort. Discipline was never born in the soft, easy places of your life. Every part of you that you're proud of was forged in struggle, not comfort. You know this. Deep down, you've always known it. Yet you keep choosing the easier option. Why? Because comfort is addictive. It gives you small hits of pleasure, tiny bursts of dopamine, temporary relief that keeps you hooked. And the more you consume it, the weaker you get. Comfort shrinks your tolerance for discomfort, which means even small challenges start feeling overwhelming. That's why you give up quickly. That's why you avoid difficulty. That's why your life feels stagnant. And here's the brutal reality. Comfort doesn't just keep you where you are, it actively pulls you backward. Every time you choose comfort over effort, you're reinforcing laziness. You're training your brain to avoid work. You're teaching yourself that discomfort should be escaped, not conquered. Over time, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone strong, capable, and disciplined, and you start seeing yourself as someone who doesn't follow through. Comfort destroys potential by making you forget you have potential. Look around you. The people you admire, the people you respect, the people you wish you could become, none of them worship comfort. They use it sparingly. They rest strategically. They only enjoy comfort when it's earned. They don't escape into it. They don't hide inside it. They don't let it dictate their actions. They live on the edge of discomfort because that's where success lives. Comfort isn't the reward you think it is. Unearned comfort is just disguised self-sabotage. Let's be brutally honest about something else. Most of your problems exist because comfort has been your default setting for too long. You're not unlucky. You're not behind. You're not confused. You've just been choosing comfort at the exact moments you needed to choose effort. You didn't lose opportunities. You avoided the discomfort required to create them. You didn't lose your discipline. You stopped putting yourself in uncomfortable situations where discipline grows. You didn't lose your motivation. You suffocated it with too much ease. Comfort is not rest. Comfort is surrender. And the longer you stay comfortable, the more you fear discomfort. The more you fear discomfort, the less you try. The less you try, the worse your life becomes. It's a cycle that turns ambitious people into mediocre versions of themselves. It takes potential and traps it inside a life of just enough. Maybe tomorrow, and I'm fine. But here's the good news. You can break this cycle the moment you stop worshipping comfort and start respecting discomfort. Discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is the training ground for the life you want. It's where discipline forms. It's where confidence is built. It's where resilience grows. Discomfort is the doorway to every meaningful future you could have. You don't need to seek pain. You don't need to destroy yourself. But you do need to understand that effort is uncomfortable and that discomfort is a normal, necessary part of growth. Stop expecting life to feel good all the time. Stop expecting motivation to make hard things easy. Stop expecting discipline to feel natural from the start. Most people fail because they mistake discomfort for a sign that something is wrong. The truth is the opposite. Discomfort is the signal that you're doing something right. Comfort makes you soft. Discomfort makes you sharp. Comfort keeps you still. Discomfort moves you forward. Comfort makes you passive. Discomfort makes you alive. Comfort keeps you dreaming. Discomfort makes you acting. You will never live an extraordinary life if you keep choosing ordinary comfort. So what's the solution? It's simple, not easy, but simple. You have to flip the script. You have to teach your brain that discomfort is the new normal. You have to train yourself to lean into effort instead of retreating from it. You have to stop negotiating every time life asks you to try harder. This means doing things that don't feel good at first, waking up early, working when you don't want to, pushing your limits, saying no to distractions, choosing growth over comfort. Over time, something powerful happens. The discomfort that used to scare you becomes familiar. It becomes manageable. You start building momentum. The tasks that felt huge become normal. Your confidence grows because you see yourself doing things you once avoided. Your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who chooses ease, and you become someone who chooses strength. Comfort loses its power the moment you stop hiding in it. From today onward, you need to see comfort for what it truly is: the enemy, the sweet poison, the silent trap, the invisible wall between the life you have and the life you want. Stop choosing the enemy. Start choosing the path that builds you, because everything you want is waiting on the other side of discomfort, and nothing changes until you step into it. Chapter 3: Discipline over motivation. Motivation is a liar. It shows up when life feels exciting, when you're inspired, when everything is smooth and convenient. It gives you a burst of energy, a temporary high, a spark that makes you believe you're finally ready to change. But then it leaves. It disappears the moment things get uncomfortable, stressful, or boring. That's why your life swings between wanting to change and doing nothing about it. Motivation is emotional. It's unstable. It's unreliable. It's a guest, not a resident. People who depend on motivation live inconsistent lives. They show up when they feel good, and they disappear when they don't. They start strong, then fade. They have bursts of effort followed by long stretches of laziness. They talk about goals, but rarely finish them. They keep resetting their life over and over because feelings can't sustain progress. And that's the core truth you've avoided. Your feelings are not trustworthy leaders. They change too quickly. They get influenced by tiredness, stress, weather, moods, and distractions. If you let feelings determine your actions, your life will always be unstable and unpredictable. This is where discipline separates winners from everyone else. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline doesn't negotiate. Discipline doesn't wait for the right mindset. Discipline is consistent action, taken regardless of mood. It is the decision to do what needs to be done, even when you're tired, bored, angry, stressed, unmotivated, or uncomfortable. Discipline is mechanical, predictable, emotion-proof. People with discipline show up because showing up is who they are, not because they felt like it in the moment. That's why disciplined people have power. They're not controlled by emotion. They move based on intention, not impulse. If motivation is a spark, discipline is the engine. Look closely at your life. Every time you've made real progress, whether it was in fitness, work, studying, a habit, or a goal, it wasn't because motivation magically stayed with you. It was because you kept going long after motivation disappeared. You stayed consistent on the days you didn't want to. You pushed through resistance. You did the boring parts. That wasn't motivation. That was discipline. You've given motivation too much credit. What you actually needed all along was discipline. The difference between the person you admire and the person you currently are is not talent, luck, or intelligence. It's discipline. And discipline isn't a trait you're born with. It's a skill, a muscle, something you build through repetition. Most people never build it because they never push themselves long enough to get past the point where motivation dies. The moment things get difficult, uncomfortable, or tedious, they stop. They assume the discomfort means, "This isn't for me," or "I lost interest." They quit exactly where discipline begins. The truth is, brutally simple, discipline is built in the moments you want to quit. Not when you sit excited. Not when everything is easy. Not when you feel inspired. Discipline is built at the exact moment motivation disappears and you keep going anyway. Every time you push through that resistance, you're literally rewiring your mind. You're teaching yourself that you don't need to feel good to take action. You're proving to yourself that you can do hard things even when you don't want to. Over time, this becomes your identity, a person who acts despite discomfort. That identity is power. Motivation gives you hope. Discipline gives you results. Hope feels good, but hope doesn't change your life. Results do. Results come from repeated action. Repeated action comes from discipline. Discipline comes from making decisions that your future self benefits from, not your current self. And here's another harsh truth. Disciplined people aren't superhuman. They're not naturally stronger or more focused. They simply decided to stop worshipping their feelings. They choose action first, emotion second. They choose consistency over comfort. They choose long-term benefit over short-term pleasure. They don't rely on motivation because they know motivation is cowardly. It shows up only when it doesn't matter. Motivation shows up on day 1 of the gym. It disappears on day 14. Discipline carries you to day 200. Motivation shows up when you write the first page of a project. It disappears when you get stuck. Discipline pushes you through the problems. Motivation appears when you imagine success. It disappears when the work gets tedious. Discipline turns the vision into reality. You want a better life? Stop waiting for motivation. It's not coming, at least not consistently, and you cannot afford to build your life around something that's unreliable. You need to build a system that makes your actions non-negotiable. That means you show up even when you're angry, sad, lazy, frustrated, tired, uninspired, or overwhelmed. You show up not because you're in the mood, but because your goals depend on it, because your future self deserves it. The strongest version of you is not built through inspiration. It's built through repetition, through routine, through discipline. Discipline protects you from your weaker self. Discipline protects you from regret. Discipline protects you from wasted potential. Every day you act without motivation, you gain power over your own mind. You gain trust in yourself. You eliminate self-doubt. You prove to yourself that you can rely on your own commitment. That trust, that internal respect, is what builds real confidence. People think confidence comes from success. It doesn't. It comes from consistency. Confidence is the byproduct of discipline. When you repeatedly show yourself that you can be counted on, confidence becomes your natural state. You walk differently, think differently, act differently, because you know you can depend on yourself. Motivation won't give you that. Motivation only gives you a mood. Discipline gives you an identity. So from today onward, stop asking yourself, "Do I feel like it?" That question has ruined your progress more times than you realize. Instead, start asking, "Is this necessary?" If the answer is yes, you do it. Period. The life you want doesn't belong to the motivated. It belongs to the disciplined, and the moment you stop letting your emotions control your actions is the moment everything changes. Discipline over motivation, always, because motivation fades. Discipline endures. Chapter 4. The Cost of Laziness. Laziness looks harmless. It feels harmless. When you're lying in bed scrolling your phone, avoiding the work you know you should be doing, life doesn't immediately punish you. Nothing explodes, no alarms go off, no one forces you to get up. And that's exactly why laziness is so dangerous. It destroys you quietly. Laziness doesn't ruin your life in one big moment. It ruins your life in tiny, invisible doses. A missed opportunity here, a delayed task there, a half-hearted effort, a day wasted, then another, and another. One by one, these small moments stack up until they shape the entire direction of your life. Laziness is subtle, but its consequences are massive. The cost of laziness isn't paid today, it's paid years later when the damage is already permanent. People don't fail because they stir incapable. They fail because they keep choosing what stir is easy over what stir is necessary. They fail because they treat time like its stir is unlimited. They fail because they underestimate how quickly life can pass while they stir is distracted, tired, or not in the mood. The truth you keep avoiding is simple. Laziness has a price, and that price is your potential. Every time you skip the work, you're not just pausing progress, you're reversing it. You're training your brain to become weaker, more passive, and more easily discouraged. Your tolerance for effort drops. Your resilience fades. Your ambition dulls. Laziness creates a slow erosion of your character until you stop recognizing the person you've become. Most people only realize the cost when it's too late. They wake up years later wondering where their confidence went, where their opportunities went, where their younger ambition disappeared. They blame circumstances, luck, family, environment, anything but the truth. They chose laziness one too many times. Laziness feels good now. Regret feels terrible later. And regret always lasts longer. Regret is the emotional bill you get for every moment of laziness you thought didn't matter. It shows up when you see someone younger surpassing you, when you realize you wasted years on entertainment, when you look in the mirror and know you could have been so much more, when life gives you a reality check and you have nothing to show for your time. The real danger of laziness isn't the hours you lose, it's the life you never get to live. You're not just losing time, you're losing versions of yourself. You're losing the disciplined, confident, unstoppable person you could become. You're losing opportunities that will never come back. You're losing relationships, skills, money, health, strength, reputation. Laziness steals everything valuable because it steals the effort required to build those things. And let's be brutally honest, most of the pain you feel today is the result of your own laziness yesterday. The stress you're dealing with now, it came from tasks you didn't handle when you should have. The anxiety about your future, it came from years of half efforts. The frustration with your progress, it came from wasted time disguised as rest. You're not overwhelmed because life is unfair. You're overwhelmed because laziness let problems grow into monsters. The harshest part, laziness disguises itself as harmless choices. 10 more minutes on your phone, one skipped workout, a project you'll start later, an opportunity you don't just feel ready for, a day spent doing the minimum, a night spent staying up late for nothing. Each one feels small. Together they form a life you don't want. And it's not just about goals. Laziness affects how you see yourself. Every time you choose laziness, you weaken your identity. You prove to yourself that you can't rely on your own word. You break trust with yourself. And once that trust is broken, discipline becomes 10 times harder. Confidence becomes harder. Consistency becomes harder. You start viewing yourself as someone who can't follow through, and that identity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People don't lose potential because they lack talent. They lose potential because they lose trust in themselves. But here's something you don't hear often. Laziness is a habit, not a permanent identity, and habits can be broken. The first step is understanding what laziness really is: avoidance. Avoidance of discomfort. Avoidance of effort. Avoidance of failure. Laziness isn't about not wanting to work. It's about wanting to avoid the temporary pain of effort. You've conditioned yourself to choose short-term relief over long-term reward. But effort doesn't instead kill you. Avoidance does. You have to stop treating laziness like a personality trait. It's not just who you are, it's a pattern you can replace. And the moment you take responsibility for breaking that pattern, everything changes. When you choose action instead of avoidance, even for 5 minutes, you weaken laziness. When you push yourself through discomfort, you make laziness less appealing. When you do the work anyway, you reclaim control of your mind. You don't overcome laziness with motivation, you overcome it with momentum. One action, one step, one task finished. The moment you start moving, your brain shifts from passive mode to active mode. You create energy instead of waiting for it. And here's something most people never realize: action is easier than laziness. Laziness feels heavy. Laziness drains your energy. Laziness makes everything feel overwhelming. Action creates energy. Action builds clarity. Action boosts confidence. The work you avoid is always harder in your mind than in reality. Laziness wants you to believe that doing nothing is easier, but in the long run, doing nothing ruins you. You know the truth. You've felt it. You've lived the consequences. You've seen what laziness steals from you. And if you keep letting it run your life, you already know exactly where you'll end up: stuck, frustrated, resentful, and painfully aware that you could have been more. This chapter is your warning, but it's also your turning point. Because once you understand the true cost of laziness, you can't unsee it. You can't pretend everything is fine. You can't hide behind excuses anymore. You either break the cycle or the cycle breaks you. The price of laziness is your life, and the price of effort is discomfort. Choose wisely, because one choice builds you, and the other destroys everything you could become. Chapter 5. Your future self is watching. There's a version of you that exists in the future, 10 years from now, 5 years, even 1 year. That version of you will live with the consequences of every decision you make today. They will benefit from your discipline or suffer from your laziness. They will succeed because of your choices or fail because of your excuses. They will thank you or resent you. Most people live as if the future doesn't exist. They move through life reacting, delaying, avoiding. They act like today's choices vanish into nothing, but nothing disappears. Every action you take becomes the building material of your future self. And the uncomfortable truth: you already know you're letting that future version of yourself down. Imagine standing face to face with the person you'll become 10 years from now. Would they smile at you, proud that you carried them forward, or would they look at you with disappointment, realizing you were the one who held them back? Because your future self sees the reality you keep denying: you're capable of more, but you're settling for less. Every time you choose laziness, you're stealing from your future self. Every time you procrastinate, you're handing them a problem to deal with. Every time you avoid effort, you're building a weaker version of them. The person you want to be is waiting on the actions you keep postponing. People love to fantasize about their future. The success, the confidence, the financial stability, the physical transformation, the opportunities. But here's the brutal truth. Your future self doesn't appear magically. They are created piece by piece through the boring, uncomfortable, repetitive, disciplined actions you take today. You don't become successful in the future. You build the habits of success now. You don't become disciplined later. You practice discipline now. Your future self is just the compounded result of your current behaviors. Think of your life as a long chain. Every action today is a link. If the link is strong, the chain grows stronger. If the link is weak, the entire chain weakens. You keep thinking one day doesn't matter, but the chain doesn't forget. What most people confuse is the emotional disconnect between today's decision and tomorrow's consequence. You don't feel the pain of skipping the gym today. You feel it months later when your body becomes weaker and your self-esteem drops. You don't feel the cost of procrastinating on work. You feel it when you're stressed, broke, or behind. You don't feel the damage of wasting time. You feel it when you're older, realizing you could have been far ahead. Laziness is a debt your future self pays with regret. And regret is the heaviest emotion a human can carry. It doesn't fade quickly. It stays with you. It gnaws at you. It whispers, "You could have done more. You should have tried harder." Regret is the emotional punishment for abandoning your future self. But here's the good news. The moment you start acting in the best interest of your future self, everything changes. You gain clarity. You gain purpose. You gain direction. When you start thinking, what does my future self need from me today? You immediately shift from short-term pleasure to long-term strength. That question forces maturity. It forces discipline. It forces honesty. Because let's be real, your present self wants comfort, entertainment, avoidance, and the easiest possible day. Your present self is lazy, emotional, distracted, and impatient. Your future self wants stability, growth, confidence, success, health, mastery, and momentum. The battle between discipline and laziness is really the battle between your future self and your present self. Your present self craves pleasure. Your future self craves progress. And only one of them wins. When you choose laziness, you're not just harming yourself today, you're betraying the person you'll become. And deep down, you know they deserve better. Picture this clearly. Your future self exists. They have hopes. They have dreams. They want to live a life you haven't created yet. They want opportunities you haven't earned yet. They want confidence you haven't built yet. They want strength you haven't trained yet. They are living in a reality shaped by your current effort. Just imagine the version of you 10 years from now waking up in a life shaped by the choices you're making today. Would they thank you for your consistency, or would they curse you for your laziness? Most people never think about this. They assume their future self will somehow figure it out. They expect maturity, success, discipline, and clarity to appear with age. That's not how it works. Age doesn't bring wisdom automatically. Experience doesn't guarantee growth. Time doesn't transform you. Effort does. Your future self is nothing more than the accumulated result of your present habits. If you want a disciplined future self, act with discipline today. If you want a wealthy future self, make financially disciplined choices today. If you want a confident future self, do the work that builds confidence today. If you want a healthier future self, take care of your body today. Everything connects. Nothing is random. And here sits the truth most people can handle. Your future self either becomes your greatest success story or your greatest regret. Your choices today decide which one. Imagine your future self standing behind you, watching everything, watching you avoid work, watching you scroll, watching you delay, watching you break promises to yourself, watching you choose comfort over growth. They're not angry, they're disappointed, because they know you're capable of more. But also imagine the opposite. Imagine your future self watching you push through resistance, watching you stay consistent, watching you choose discipline, watching you keep promises, watching you show up even when you don't feel like it. That future self would be proud, grateful, strong, confident. They would look at you and say, "Thank you. You didn't give up on me. You stir building that person right now. Every decision today either strengthens or weakens the life you'll have tomorrow. You don't need perfection. You don't need motivation. You need responsibility. You need to understand that your life isn't just happening, it's being built. Your future self is watching, and they're hoping you finally choose actions you won't regret. Because tomorrow's version of you deserves more than the excuses you've been giving. Build a future you're proud to meet, not one you're afraid to face. Chapter 6. Action creates clarity. Most people wait for clarity before they take action. They sit around thinking, planning, imagining, preparing, researching, anything that allows them to feel productive without actually doing the work. They confuse movement of the mind with movement of their life. They believe they need to figure everything out first before they can begin. That mentality is the biggest trap you've fallen into. Clarity does not come before action. Clarity is the reward for taking action. The reason you feel confused, lost, unsure, hesitant, or directionless is because you're not moving. Your brain can't create clarity while sitting still. It needs data. It needs experience. It needs feedback. It needs momentum. And the only way to get any of that is through action. You can't think your way into clarity. You have to act your way into it. Look back on your life. When did things finally make sense? When did opportunities open up? When did you gain confidence? When did new paths reveal themselves? It wasn't during the planning phase. It was when you did something, even if it was small, even if it was messy, even if you didn't know what you were doing. Action is a teacher. Thinking is just theory. This is why so many people stay stuck for years. They think instead of act. They overanalyze instead of experiment. They want a guarantee before they begin. They want perfect conditions, perfect timing, perfect clarity. But perfection is fictional. It doesn't exist in the real world. Nothing becomes clear until you start moving. You don't learn to walk by thinking about walking. You learn to walk by taking steps and falling. Every meaningful skill in your life followed this pattern. Yet as adults, you suddenly expect the path to be obvious before you take a step. You expect to feel confident before doing the uncomfortable thing. You expect to have all the answers before asking the first question. Your confusion isn't the problem. Your inaction is. You keep saying, "I don't know where to start." That's not true. You do know where to start. You're just avoiding the start because you're afraid the first step will make you feel stupid, uncomfortable, exposed, or incompetent. You're afraid of being a beginner. You're afraid of doing something imperfectly. But the harsh truth, every expert was once a clueless beginner. The difference is they moved anyway. You want to avoid mistakes, so you avoid action. But avoiding action is the biggest mistake of all, because inaction guarantees failure. Mistakes can be corrected. Inaction can't. You can adjust direction once you're moving, but you can't adjust anything if you're standing still. When you take action, any action, the fog starts to lift. What seemed confusing becomes clearer. What felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What looked impossible becomes doable. Movement generates understanding. Effort generates insight. Clarity is created through trying, failing, fixing, adjusting, learning, trying again. It's a cycle. You cannot skip it. You cannot think your way around it. You keep waiting for confidence before you begin. Confidence is not a starting point, it's a side effect. It comes after repetition, not before. You only feel confident doing things you've already done. So waiting to feel confident before acting is a psychological dead end. Action doesn't just create clarity, it creates confidence. When you take the first step, you prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort. You prove you won't break. you prove you're capable of making progress. That proof becomes evidence for your brain, and that evidence becomes confidence. No amount of motivational videos can give you that. Only action can. And here sits something else you need to accept. Your first steps will be messy. They will be imperfect. They will feel awkward. They will not look impressive. They are not supposed to. Growth isn't elegant. It's chaotic at first, but that chaos is where clarity is born. People love to convince themselves they're waiting for the right time, but that's just a mask for fear. There is no perfect time. There is only now. The longer you delay, the harder it becomes to start. Inaction creates more confusion. Inaction increases anxiety. Inaction magnifies fear. Meanwhile, even the smallest action breaks that mental pattern immediately. You ever notice how doing one small task suddenly gives you more energy? How starting something makes you realize it wasn't as difficult as you imagined? That's the power of action. Your brain shifts from passive mode to active mode. You go from thinking to executing. You go from stuck to moving. Momentum is born in the smallest steps. You don't need a full plan. You don't need all the answers. You don't need certainty. You need movement. Movement reveals the next step. Always. Think of action like a flashlight in the dark. When you stand still, the world looks pitch black. You can't see more than a few inches ahead. But the moment you start walking, the light moves with you, revealing more and more of the path. If you wait for the entire path to be visible before you start walking, you'll be waiting forever. Action moves the light. This is why successful people are not necessarily smarter. They're not always more talented. They simply start before they feel ready. They understand that clarity comes later. They take steps, evaluate, adjust, and keep moving. They don't need perfection. They need momentum. The difference between someone who succeeds and someone who stays stuck is simple. The successful one acts, learns, and evolves. The stuck one waits, thinks, and repeats. Thinking without action becomes a form of procrastination. It feels productive but accomplishes nothing. You've spent months, maybe years inside your own head, imagining changes you never act on. And every day you do this, your clarity gets weaker, not stronger. Your mind needs movement. Your soul needs momentum. Your life needs action. So here sips the truth. You can sit escape. You won't know what the next step is until you take the first one. You won't know the right path until you start walking. You won't know your potential until you start testing it. You won't know what you're capable of until you begin doing instead of thinking. Stop waiting for clarity. Clarity is created by action, always. The longer you wait, the foggier everything becomes. The sooner you move, the clearer your future gets. Start now. Even if it's small, even if it sets messy, even if you stir unsure, action creates clarity, and without clarity, your life will never change. Chapter 7. Become uncomfortable with your own excuses. Your excuses are the most dangerous lies you believe, not because they're convincing, but because they're comfortable. They cushion your guilt, protect your ego, and allow you to avoid responsibility without feeling like you're doing anything wrong. Excuses are the mental sugar that makes laziness taste sweeter, and you've consumed so much of it that it feels normal now. Every time you let an excuse win, you weaken yourself. You reinforce the idea that your limitations are real, that discomfort should be avoided, that effort is optional, and that your goals can wait. You create a false story where you are the victim and the world is the obstacle, when in reality the obstacle is you. Excuses are not harmless. They are the invisible chains that keep your life small. The worst part? Your excuses sound reasonable to you. They're dressed up in logic, emotion, and self-protection. I'm too tired. I'm too stressed. I'll start when things calm down. I don't feel ready. These lines feel honest, even noble, because they protect you from the truth. You don't want to do the hard thing. Excuses are seductive because they offer relief without resolution. They let you escape discomfort now while guaranteeing bigger discomfort later. They give you temporary comfort but long-term suffering. That's the trade you've been making over and over again. You've been choosing temporary emotional comfort instead of permanent progress. Let's be brutally honest. Your excuses are the only reason your life isn't where you want it to be. Not your circumstances, not your past, not your parents, not your environment, not your lack of opportunity. Millions of people have started with less, faced more, endured worse, and still built powerful lives. The difference between them and you: they didn't let excuses talk them out of action. Excuses are the language of stagnation. They are the stories you tell yourself to justify staying exactly where you are. They feel protective, but they are destructive. They sound logical, but they are limiting. They appear harmless, but they destroy dreams. Excuses become dangerous when you start believing them as truth. You repeat them so often that they become part of your identity. You don't just make excuses, you become someone who believes you can't. That identity is a poison that seeps into everything you do. Once you see yourself as someone limited, lazy, or incapable, you act accordingly. You stop trying, you stop dreaming, you settle, you shrink your life to match your excuses. But here sits the breakthrough most people never realize. Excuses lose their power the moment you become uncomfortable with them. When you start calling out your excuses instead of accepting them, everything changes. You become aware of the mental tricks you've used to avoid effort. You recognize your patterns. You see through your own self-sabotage. Instead of comforting yourself with lies, you confront yourself with truth. That discomfort is the beginning of transformation. Most people never reach this point because they're too emotionally fragile. They can't handle the discomfort of seeing their own bullshit. They'd rather blame external factors than look in the mirror. They'd rather protect their ego than build their life. But if you want a life worth living, you need to develop an intolerance for your own excuses. You need to become someone who feels disgust, not comfort, when they catch themselves lying to themselves. Someone who stops mid-excuse and says, "No, I'm not doing this anymore." Your excuses are not you. They're habits, and habits can be broken. Let's break down the truth behind your excuses. I'm tired. No, you're mentally soft from lack of discipline. Action gives energy, laziness drains it. I don't have time. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else. You're choosing distractions over priorities. I don't feel motivated. Motivation was never supposed to be the engine. Discipline is. I don't know where to start. You do. You're just avoiding the uncomfortable first step. It's not the right moment. The right moment is always the moment you decide to begin. I'll do it later. Later is code for never. Once you see the truth behind your excuses, they stop sounding reasonable and start sounding embarrassing. And that embarrassment is powerful. It forces accountability. The goal is not to become perfect. The goal is to become honest. Honesty destroys excuses. Excuses destroy your life. When you begin rejecting your excuses, you build a new identity, one built on accountability, not avoidance. You start seeing yourself as someone who does the uncomfortable thing, someone who acts instead of delays, someone who pushes through resistance. That identity becomes your new strength. And here sits the part everyone resists. You don't eliminate excuses by trying to feel strong. You eliminate excuses by taking action despite them. Action is the enemy of excuses. The second you act, even for 2 minutes, your excuse loses its grip. It evaporates. You realize the task wasn't as hard as your mind made it. You realize you're more capable than you thought. You realize the story you told yourself was a lie. Excuses grow stronger the longer you think. Action grows stronger the moment you begin. The person you want to become, disciplined, focused, successful, unstoppable, cannot exist in the same mind that tolerates excuses. You cannot keep lying to yourself and expect to build a powerful life. Your excuses are not protecting you from failure. They're protecting you from progress. They're blocking you from the uncomfortable work that transforms you. The moment you see them for what they are, manipulation, you reclaim control over your life. Here sits the truth you need to accept. You will always have excuses. But you don't have to listen to them. Strong people feel the same excuses as everyone else. They just don't obey them. They push forward anyway. They act despite resistance. They do the work regardless of emotion. Your excuses will keep talking. But from today onward, they don't get to decide. Become uncomfortable with your own excuses. Reject them. Call them out. Replace them with action. Because excuses are easy, but they cost you everything. Action is hard, but it gives you everything. Chapter 8. The Momentum Principle. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in your life, and you probably underestimate it more than anything else. You think change requires massive effort, huge breakthroughs, or intense motivation. It doesn't. Real change is built on momentum. Small actions repeated consistently until they become an unstoppable force. Momentum is the invisible engine behind every transformation, every success story, every disciplined person you admire. And the reason you've struggled for so long is because you keep killing your momentum before it has a chance to grow. The hardest part of anything is the beginning. Not because the task is impossible, but because you have no momentum. You're pushing from zero. Zero is heavy. Zero is difficult. Zero feels overwhelming. Zero makes you doubt yourself. That's why starting feels like lifting a mountain. Your mind isn't warmed up, your discipline isn't activated, and your self-belief hasn't kicked in yet. But the moment you take even the smallest step, everything changes. You activate momentum, you shift out of paralysis, you go from stagnant to moving, and once you're moving, everything becomes easier, often dramatically easier. This is the principle most people never truly grasp. It's easier to keep going than it is to start over. You've been living your life in cycles of starting and stopping. You get inspired, take a few steps, hit a little discomfort, slow down, stop completely, lose your momentum, and then eventually start again from zero. That cycle destroys your confidence, your progress, and your belief that change is possible. But imagine if you stopped restarting and simply kept moving, even slowly, even imperfectly. Your entire life would look different, because once momentum takes over, discipline feels more natural, effort feels less painful, and progress becomes automatic instead of forced. Momentum is not about speed, it's about direction. People fail because they think momentum means doing everything fast, intense, or perfectly. No, momentum means doing something today, then tomorrow, then again the next day. It means building a chain of action that becomes stronger with every link. It doesn't matter if the steps are tiny. What matters is that they continue. 1 minute of work is infinitely more powerful than 0. 1 page written is infinitely better than none. 1 workout, even if short, is 1,000 times better than skipping. Why? Because action breeds more action. Movement breeds more movement. Once you've started, your brain shifts into a different mode. You stop negotiating with yourself, and you start executing. Momentum works on the emotional level too. When you take action, you feel different. You feel capable. You feel proud. You feel in control. You feel like someone who can move their own life forward. That internal shift matters more than any external progress. Momentum transforms your identity before it transforms your life. The opposite is also true. Lack of momentum creates a downward spiral. When you skip one day, it becomes easier to skip the next. When you delay one task, your brain becomes more comfortable delaying the next one. Before you know it, you're not just stuck, you're moving backward. Momentum works both ways. Positive momentum rises. Negative momentum sinks. Every day you stir building one or the other. This is why consistency is the real superpower. Not intensity, not motivation, not perfection. Consistency. Small wins repeated long enough eventually compound into massive wins, but inconsistency forces you to live in a perpetual state of starting over, the most exhausting and demoralizing place to live. You stir not tired because you work hard. You stir tired because you work inconsistently. Momentum removes that exhaustion because it removes the emotional resistance. When you've been consistent for a while, the actions you used to fight yourself on become automatic. What once felt like discipline now feels like your normal routine. What once felt impossible becomes your default behavior. Discipline becomes easier, not because you became stronger, but because momentum reduced the internal friction. Momentum makes hard things simple. It makes overwhelming things manageable. It makes big goals achievable. But the catch, momentum doesn't appear on its own. You have to earn the first push. You have to push through the first wave of resistance. That initial push is uncomfortable, brutally uncomfortable. Your mind will scream for ease. Your emotions will tell you to wait. Your excuses will multiply. That is the price of escaping zero. That is the cost of starting. But once you break through that first barrier, the weight becomes lighter. The task becomes easier. Your confidence grows. Your willingness grows. You begin to experience the psychological shift that only action can create. Momentum is the antidote to overthinking. When you're moving, you spend less time worrying, doubting, or imagining worst-case scenarios. Action crowds out anxiety. Movement silences fear. Clarity increases because your brain is now focused on doing instead of worrying. This is why people who stay consistent appear more confident. They're not better than you. They just have less mental resistance because their momentum is strong. If you want to transform your life, stop obsessing over the end result. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop trying to feel ready. Focus on momentum. Build it. Protect it. Honor it. Even on days you feel like doing nothing, take a small action to keep your streak alive. Momentum is a step built in giant leaps. Momentum is built in small, repeated steps. You may think a tiny step doesn't matter, but it does. It keeps the engine running. It keeps your identity aligned with progress. It keeps your mind focused on forward motion. It prevents the collapse back into zero. Never underestimate the power of doing a little, because a little done daily beats a lot done occasionally. From today onward, measure your success not by how much you accomplish, but by whether or not you moved. A tiny step maintains momentum. A 0 day destroys it. Make this your rule. Never allow 2 zeros in a row. 1 off day happens. 2 off days become a pattern. 3 off days become a lifestyle. Your entire life can change with this principle alone. Momentum is your silent ally, your invisible coach, your personal engine. Build it, protect it, feed it, and once it starts working for you, you'll finally understand why disciplined people feel unstoppable, because they are. Momentum makes them that way. Start today. Start small. Start imperfect. But start, because the moment you begin moving, the universe begins moving with you. Chapter 9. Rebuild your identity. Your identity is the root of everything you do, every habit, every choice, every action, every pattern. People love to focus on motivation, discipline, routines, and hacks, but those are surface level. The real battle is deeper. The real fight happens at the level of identity, who you believe you are. Because here sits the truth you self-avoided your entire life. You act according to the story you tell yourself. If you believe you set lazy, you act lazy. If you believe you're inconsistent, you act inconsistent. If you believe you're not disciplined, you act like someone without discipline. If you believe this is just who I am, you build your life around that limitation. Your identity creates your habits. Your habits reinforce your identity. And the cycle continues endlessly, unless you break it. Most people never break it. They live inside a cage they built themselves. Not a cage made of metal, but a cage made of beliefs. And the sad part, those beliefs usually came from a few failures, a few bad experiences, or things other people said. Instead of rejecting them, you absorbed them. You made them part of your personality. You turned temporary setbacks into permanent identity. You weren't set born lazy. You weren't set born inconsistent. You weren't set born unmotivated. You learned those habits, and then you labeled yourself with them. Identity is powerful because once you accept a label, your brain works to make your behavior match that label. If you say, "I'm bad at sticking to routines," your brain will automatically look for evidence that reinforces it. If you say, "I'm someone who always gets distracted," your mind will create patterns to make that belief true. Identity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are not failing because you're weak. You're failing because you're loyal to a broken identity. But here sits the liberating truth. If identity is built, it can be rebuilt. You don't have to keep being the person you've been. You don't have to drag your past self into your future. You don't have to repeat the same patterns just because you're familiar with them. You can rewrite the entire story, starting now. But you can't rebuild identity with wishful thinking. You can't chant affirmations and magically become a disciplined person. Identity doesn't change because you say it. It changes because you live it. You must act your way into a new identity. Identity isn't built through beliefs. It's built through evidence. Every action you take is a vote for the person you want to become. When you show up, even for 5 minutes, you cast a vote for "I am disciplined." When you finish a task instead of avoiding it, you cast a vote for "I follow through." When you choose effort over comfort, you cast a vote for "I am strong." These votes matter. They accumulate. They reshape the way you see yourself. You've been giving your identity the wrong votes for too long. Now it's time to replace them. People try to build discipline from the outside, strict routines, complicated systems, massive goals, and they fail because the foundation is weak. They're trying to force disciplined behavior on top of a lazy identity. That never works. Your identity will always pull you back to what feels familiar. If your identity is weak, your discipline will collapse every time life gets difficult. But once you build a stronger identity, discipline becomes natural. Not effortless, but natural. You no longer have to fight yourself on every action, because the action matches who you now believe you are. You go from forcing discipline to embodying it. This is why some people seem naturally consistent. They're not fighting an internal identity conflict. Their behaviors match their self-image. Your transformation begins the moment you decide to stop identifying with your weaknesses. Stop calling yourself lazy. Stop calling yourself inconsistent. Stop calling yourself unmotivated. Stop repeating the story of your past. Stop accepting limitations that you can outgrow. Weak identities create weak actions. Strong identities create strong actions. Start telling the truth, not about who you've been, but about who you're becoming, not with empty words, but with repeated action. You rebuild identity through showing up when you don't feel like it, doing small tasks consistently, keeping promises to yourself, following through even when bored, making effort non-negotiable, becoming the type of person who acts. This is the identity shift that changes your entire life. You go from "I hope I can do this" to "this is just who I am now." You go from "I struggle with discipline" to "I am someone who gets things done." You go from "I can stay consistent" to "missing a day feels wrong to me." When identity shifts, everything else shifts with it. You don't need a perfect plan to change your life. You need a new identity and the actions that support it. Every day you're building or destroying that identity. Every day you're proving something to yourself. And whether you like it or not, your brain is always watching. It's always taking notes. It's always shaping your character. If you skip the work, you prove you can't rely on your own word. If you keep delaying, you prove you don't take your life seriously. If you break your promises, you prove you don't trust yourself. But if you show up, even imperfectly, you prove you can change. Identity doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. And consistency isn't about doing everything, it's about doing something every day. Doing enough to show your brain that the old identity is dying and the new one is taking over. That's when the shift happens. That's when effort becomes easier. That's when discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like alignment. Because now, your actions match who you believe you are. Rebuilding your identity is the most powerful transformation you will ever experience. It's the difference between forcing a new life and becoming a new person. When your identity aligns with your goals, your behavior naturally follows. From today forward, stop asking, "How do I become disciplined?" Start asking, "Who is the person I want to become, and what would they do today?" Then go do it. Because identity isn't what you say, it's what you repeatedly do. And your future identity starts with the next action you take. Chapter 10. Move now or regret forever. Your life is not as long as you think it is. You act like you have unlimited time, like you can delay your goals without consequence, like your future will somehow fix itself. But the truth you've been avoiding is this: your life is a countdown, and the clock never stops. Every day you waste is gone permanently. Every moment you delay is time you can never get back. Every excuse you obey becomes part of a life you will eventually regret. You keep imagining you'll change one day, but that mythical day has never arrived, and it never will unless you create it. You've lived long enough to know the pattern. You wait, you delay, you plan, you talk, you promise, and then nothing. Another week gone, another month gone, another year gone, and the worst part, you barely notice time slipping away until it's too late. One day, you'll wake up and realize that the life you wanted isn't coming, not because it wasn't possible, but because you refused to act when it mattered. This chapter is your final warning. Move now or regret forever. Regret is not a sudden explosion. It grows slowly, quietly, building layer by layer as you avoid the work you know you should be doing. At first, it's just a small discomfort, a sense that you're not doing enough, a feeling that you're wasting your potential. You ignore it because it doesn't hurt much. But regret is patient. It waits. It grows. It compounds. Years later, you feel it in full force, when your body doesn't have the energy it once did, when opportunities have passed, when people you cared about have moved on, when you're stuck in a life built on avoidance. Regret is the pain of knowing you could have been more, but chose less. It's the pain of looking back on your life with clarity and seeing exactly where you gave up, where you stalled, where you wasted time, where you chose comfort over growth. It's the pain of seeing someone else living the life you wanted because they moved while you stayed still. And the brutal truth: you will either experience the pain of action today or the pain of regret tomorrow. Action hurts now. Regret hurts forever. This chapter isn't trying to scare you, it's trying to wake you up, because the path you're on right now leads somewhere, and if you don't change direction, you already know exactly where it ends. It ends with disappointment. It ends with resentment. It ends with a quiet life filled with what-ifs. People think the scariest part of life is failure. It isn't. The scariest part of life is being old enough to see the truth clearly and realizing you're out of time to fix it. If you talk to people at the end of their lives, you'll discover they rarely regret what they did. They regret what they didn't do. The chances they didn't take, the dreams they stopped pursuing, the things they always intended to start tomorrow, the moments they thought they had more time for, the life they were too afraid, too comfortable, or too distracted to build. You stir not special. You stir not immune. If you keep living the way you are now, you will face the same regret. You will look back and see how many years you threw away, and it will hit you harder than any failure ever could. But here sits the part you need to remember. You still have time, but not as much as you think. You stir not too late. You stir not too old. You stir not too far behind. You haven't missed your chance unless you keep delaying. Your transformation doesn't require a miracle. It requires one thing: movement. Not big movement, not perfect movement, just movement. Every major life change begins with a single decision, the decision to act now, not later, not someday, not when motivation magically appears. Now, the moment you act, everything shifts. You break the pattern of avoidance. You take control back from your excuses. You disrupt the identity that's been keeping you stuck. You activate momentum. You build clarity. You spark discipline. You feel alive again because you're moving your life forward instead of letting it drift. The universe responds to movement. Opportunities appear when you start walking. People show up when you show commitment. Solutions appear when you take the first step. Confidence grows when you stop waiting and start doing. Life rewards momentum, but it punishes stagnation. If you continue to wait, nothing changes. If you continue to delay, nothing improves. If you continue to postpone, nothing evolves. Your life is not waiting for you to be ready. Your dreams are not waiting for your fear to disappear. Your future self is not waiting for the perfect plan. Everything you want is on the other side of action. Time is passing. Opportunities are fading. Life is moving forward with or without you. You don't get to pause the clock. You don't get a second version of your 20s, or 30s, or 40s. You don't get a replay of today. Right now is the youngest you will ever be. Right now is the most time you shall ever have. Right now is the moment you either take control or continue drifting. And drifting leads only one place: regret. You have one job for the rest of your life. Move. Move when you say tired. Move when you set unmotivated. Move when you stir scared. Move when you sit unsure. Move when the path isn't set clear. Move when your excuses try to stop you. Because movement is how you save your life from becoming something you can't stand to remember. This is not a chapter. This is a crossroads. You either continue down the path of delay, or you finally choose action. The choice is yours, but so are the consequences. Move now or regret forever. And the truth is simple. You already know which one you're sick of choosing. This entire journey has been one thing, a mirror. A brutally honest reflection of the truth you've been avoiding, that your life is shaped by your actions, not your intentions. You can replay these chapters 1,000 times, but nothing changes unless you do. Not your mindset, not your habits, not your future. You've heard the truth. You've confronted the excuses. You've seen the cost of laziness, the power of discipline, the danger of comfort, and the reality that your future self depends entirely on what you do next. There's no more pretending you don't know what to do. There's no more hiding behind "I'll start tomorrow." There's no more comfort to run to without paying for it later. Your life won't transform because of this audiobook. It transforms the moment you act on it. The next 5 minutes matter more than anything you've heard so far. The next decision you make decides whether this audiobook becomes a turning point or just another moment of temporary motivation that fades like all the others. You either leave this as the person you were, or you walk out as the person you finally chose to become. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to force you. No one is coming to drag you toward your potential. This is on you, completely, entirely, and undeniably. But here sits the empowering truth. You don't need permission. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need confidence. You need movement. Right now, not later, not tomorrow. Now, your future self is watching. Your potential is waiting. Your momentum starts the moment you decide. It starts. Get up. Move now. And don't you dare waste your life.